Hello everyone, it's Casey Vineyard here at Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. We are so excited to have you here as we talk about our newest mission for the month of for the month of June, mission conservation pollinators. What is a pollinator, some of you may ask? A pollinator is an animal that moves pollen from one flower to another. Think of all of your favorite foods. Some of you may say vegetables, fruits, and others may say chocolates. These are all thanks to our pollinator friends. Throughout the month of June, you will get to meet multiple partners to learn exciting facts about different pollinator species. Get ready to dive into some fun facts about our pollinator friends and their importance to our ecosystem. So, in order to play this really fun mission, all you have to do is buzz on over to our mission conservation page at www.wondersofwildlife.org/mission-conservation, and that will bring you to our mission conservation webpage. On this website, I will bring your attention down to get the app. Once you click download, that will take you to download the Agents of Discovery app, which you will need to play any mission conservation mission. Once you have this app downloaded, create a user account and log in. Hit the search bar, type in mission conservation, and this is where we house all of our at-home missions, and they will pop up for you to play. Once you have the mission popped up and loaded, hit play and you're ready for your fun adventure. If you're looking for more pollinator-related activities, we're going to direct you down to another part of our website where it says Schedule of Missions and Activities. This tab will show you all of the missions that we have live, including our current mission, Pollinators. Under this tab, you will also find our activity guide that we have specifically made for you at home. There will be a craft, an awesome outdoor activity, and something that you can do to promote conservation for these amazing pollinators. So I'm currently standing here in our cave exhibit. When you think of pollinators, you don't really think about animals that live in our cave systems. However, one of our amazing pollinator friends that we have today are bats. And today we have a pollinator coordinator with us with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service here to talk about these amazing animals. Lori Jones, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Casey. I am excited to be talking to you guys about pollinators. And do I need to start my video now?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much, Lori. What do you have for us?
So we're going to be talking about bats as pollinators and what makes them special and how they can be so exciting as pollinators. And we're going to talk about a couple of them that are in particular that come to the United States. Most of our bats who are pollinators, they actually live south of us in Central and South America, but we do have some that come all the way up to Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and that neck of the woods. So as I get ready, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we're going to get on with the program here. But as Casey said, my name is Lori Jones, and I work at the Great Plains Nature Center with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I have worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for about 22 years, and I'm going to be, as I said, talking to you about pollinators, bats as pollinators. I was a pollinator coordinator for Region 6, which is the Mountain Prairie region, for about 4 years after I first moved up here to Wichita, Kansas. And they've kind of done away with pollinator coordinators. So now I'm just doing education as requested about pollinators. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about the Great Plains Nature Center because it is where I work. We're going to review what pollination is, and then we're going to talk about bats as pollinators, have some general information about bats, what they're looking for when they're looking to pollinate, why they are good pollinators, what plants they pollinate, how we can help our bat pollinator friends, and some nectar bats that are located here in the United States. So to begin with, the Great Plains Nature Center is a partnership between 4 different organizations. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service owns the building that you see on your right-hand side. The State of Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks and Tourism is one of our partners, and they have the wing on the right-hand side, and that's where their regional office resides. And they actually sell their licenses and permits out of this building. And they pay our normal bills. So they pay for our utilities and for my internet so I can actually do programming. The city of Wichita actually owns the park that surrounds us, and it's a 240-acre park. So that's where we do a lot of our education here. And then we have a Friends of the Great Plains Nature Center, and that's our 501c3 nonprofit organization. So our mission is to provide educational opportunities on the habitats of Kansas and the Flint Hills and other natural science topics. We are located in Wichita, Kansas. We are a free facility with exhibits on habitats that are found in the Flint Hills and resident wildlife that you might see throughout the state of Kansas. So what is pollination? Pollination is when the pollen from the anther, which is the male part of the flower, is moved to the female part of the flower that is called the pistil, where ovaries and eggs can be found. Once the pollen meets the egg, a seed is formed. Seeds are usually formed into a fruit or a berry. So like an apple has seeds in it, or a pea or a tomato also is a fruit. And these all contain the seeds. Once the fruit is mature, it releases the seeds, and the seeds land on the soil and create new plants. The seeds can't get up and walk or walk away, so they have to be moved by many different ways. So water is one of them, or wind, and sometimes other animals can take them away. So things like cockleburs can actually stick to people's pant legs or to animals' fur. And sometimes when animals eat berries, the seeds come out in their poop. And that is the way seeds are moved around. So what makes a bat a pollinator? A bat that flies to a plant to drink nectar from the flower is one of our pollinators. The pollen sticks to the hair on their body. Then the bat flies to another plant for more nectar. And the bat transfers the pollen from the first plant to the second plant. So some general information about bats. Bats are a member of the mammal family. Does anybody know what are some other mammals that you might see? How about your dog or your cat? A raccoon? Okay, bats are the only flying mammal, and its wing resembles a modified human hand. And we will look at that a little later with one of my study skins that I have that is a bat. Bats have very few natural predators. If you think about it, what else is out at night that might be a predator? So let's think about maybe owls, foxes, snakes. So they have very few natural predators. They can fly very fast, and one of them can even fly 100 miles an hour. That's the Brazilian free-tailed bat. And the Brazilian free-tailed bat is found here in this part of the world. However, it is not known as a pollinator. But you know, we can all be pollinators, because if you just brush up against a flower, sometimes you take pollen with you wherever you go. There are at least 13 species of bats that are endangered, and even more that are threatened. Most bats can live to be 20 years old, and there are 6 species that have been documented to live over 30 years. Bats clean themselves and spend a lot of time grooming themselves and each other. Can you guys think of another species that might do the same thing? Like possibly a cat? Or what about a chimpanzee? Our baby bats are called pups. These guys also live in a colony, and they can have from just a couple hundred bats to thousands of bats that live in these colonies. The largest bat is called a giant golden-crowned flying fox, and it has a wingspan of 6 feet. So think about how tall your mom or your dad is. and that may be how long its wingspan is. The smallest one is a bumblebee bat, or known as Kitty's hognose bat. It is found in the Southeast Asia and Malaysia, and it's 1.5 to 1 inch to 1.5 inches long. Okay, so what do bats look for in a flower? They look for plants that bloom at night, have large white or pale flowers, are nectar rich, so they mean they have a lot of nectar and they can drink a lot at one time, and that they are highly fragrant and they smell musty or fruity. So bats that pollinate, oh, we also have flowers that are tubed or funnel shaped. Can you think of any other pollinators that might like tubed or funnel shaped flowers? I'm thinking that hummingbirds would be one of the prime species that would like a tube or funnel shaped flowers. However, they like their flowers to be red. These guys are typically found in desert or tropical climates. So there are between 300 and 500 plants that depend on bats to pollinate them. The agave plant is one of them. The saguaro cactus, which you'll see on your right-hand side there. The Oregon pipe cactus is another one. Guava, bananas, cacao, which is my favorite because I really like chocolate. And there are 80 different medicines that come from plants that rely on bats to pollinate them. So why are bats good pollinators? And if you look at the top photo, you can see why, because they get down into the middle of the flower and that pollen gets all over them. So they're very mobile creatures and they can fly farther than our average insects can. Bats can fly very fast, as I said, up to 100 miles an hour in short spurts. Bat pollination increases a plant's resistance to pests and disease, as well as assists in reproduction. And the reason why is because it's taking that pollen farther away than most insects could take it. So it's actually combining the pollen from different plants that might not have their pollen go as far as normal. Okay, so pollen sticks to the bat's fur when it's drinking nectar and brushes off when the bat visits its next flower. So why are so many bat species endangered? So we have our habitat loss. There's disease. There's many myths about bats, and people don't like bats because they think they're going to drink your blood. Well, you know something? What I found out when I was doing this, I found out that there's only 3 species of bats that actually drink blood. Bats are also hunted and killed for food. Now, you wouldn't think this lovely little bat up here in the picture would provide a whole lot of food. But you know something? Down in Australia and Southeast Asia, the bats are a lot bigger. They can be up to 6 or 7 inches long, and you know, some of them get to be a foot long, and so there's a lot more meat on them. And I guess down in Australia, they're a delicacy. I don't know that I want to eat a bat. So how can we help our bat pollinator friends? We can install bat houses, and over here on the left-hand side, you can see a couple of different designs. You can also go online and find several different plans where you can make your own bat house. We can stay out of closed caves, especially if they have bats. And the reason why is because there is this disease, which is called white-nosed bat syndrome. And it is a fungus that gets on the bats, and it makes them wake up from hibernation. And because there's no food source, the bats then become sick, and sometimes they will die. So the best way to prevent that is to either stay out of the closed bats or closed caves, or prevent the spread of white-nosed bat syndrome by cleaning and disinfecting your clothes, shoes, and any kind of gear or equipment that you take into caves with you. Another way to make sure that you save our bats is to not use pesticides in your yard, and don't chop down that dead tree, because sometimes they will actually live in dead trees. So bats that feed on nectar. There are, of the 1,400 plus species of bats found in the world, there are only 2 orders that are nectar feeders. And those guys are the Phyllostomidae and the Pteropomidae. Now, how are bats adapted so that they can get to the nectar? They have elongated snouts. They have this long brush-tipped tongue. So they have hairs on their tongue that actually help them to get that nectar and get that pollen. Their teeth are reduced in size and number, so they have less teeth, and the teeth that they do have are smaller than what you would think. They also have a very good sense of smell, so they can smell a flower about a mile away. And some of them can even find flowers by echolocation. And echolocation is kind of like sonar, where they send out a sound and it bounces back to them, and they can actually figure out where that plant is. So like I said, our Phyllostomidae and our Pteropomidae are those types of bats that actually drink nectar. So our Phyllostomidae bats are old world bats. They're found in Africa, Southeast Asia, Australia. There are 12 known species. They're known as flying foxes because they're a little larger, and they can get to be quite large. And if you look at the bat at the bottom, that is our golden crowned flying fox. That's the largest bat in the world. Their bodies are specialized for visiting and pollinating flowers. These guys have not been adapted to finding flowers by echolocation. So they have a hard time of just finding the flowers. They have to use their sense of smell to find the flowers. These guys give birth to 1 baby per year. It takes their babies about 3 months before they can actually fly and find food on their own. And that's because they're so large. These guys stay with their mother a lot longer than the New World bats do. And these guys are generally non-migratory. So the Pteropodidae bats are generally smaller than your Old World bats. They're known as either American leaf-nosed bats or New World bats. There are 36 species of these guys. They can use echolocation to find flowers as well as smell. They're generally non-migratory. However, the 2 that we're going to speak about next are migratory. They give birth to 1 baby per year, and their babies can fly and find food for themselves at about 1.5 months. The bat with the longest tongue is one of these nectar feeding bats. It's from South America, and its tongue is 9 feet long. So I want you guys to imagine the floor and your ceiling, and that's about what 9 feet long is. They can be found in northern Argentina. Bats can be found in northern Argentina to the southern United States. Okay, so one of our bats that we have in the United States is known as the Mexican long-tongued bat. And I am not even going to try and pronounce that baby because it's very difficult. So if you look over to the picture on the right, you'll see that he has his tongue out and it is pretty long. The bat itself is 3 inches long. He weighs about 5/8 of an ounce. Its fur is a grayish brown. It roosts in caves and mines and buildings. And because they roost, or because they're nocturnal, they roost during the day. The young are generally born around this time of the year, so June and July. They can hover in front of a cactus like a hummingbird. They migrate from Mexico in the spring and return to Mexico in the late summer. So they'll come up to Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas in the early spring, and then they return around August to their normal grounds. So our other bat that we're going to talk about is the lesser long-nosed bat. It migrates from Mexico to South Arizona and Southwest New Mexico in the spring. It follows the flowers as they bloom. It is, again, approximately 3 inches long. Its tongue is the same length as its body. Its wingspan is about 10 inches. It pollinates the saguaro cactus and the Oregon pipe cacti. You can commonly see it at hummingbird feeders in southern Arizona in the late summer and fall, because by that time, all of the flowers are starting to lose their nectar. So they'll go to the nearest place they can find something sweet and watery. So a hummingbird feeder is the best place to go. It was listed on the endangered species list in 1988, and I believe it has recently been pulled off of the endangered species list. But its survival is hampered by, of course, habitat loss, invasive species that are taking over where it actually lives, and then the agave industry. And the reason the agave industry is hampering it is because they'll come and cut the blossoms of the agave plant to use it for agave syrup, tequila, and Mexicali. So it roosts by day in caves and abandoned mine shafts because, of course, down there in Arizona, New Mexico, there's a lot of abandoned mine shafts. There are only 40 known roosts in the United States, and only 3 of these are maternity roosts. So maternity roosts are where the bats go that have babies. And so if there's only 3 of them, that means that there's not very many bats having babies in the United States. As the season progresses, they will actually turn from drinking nectar from the agave flowers to eating the fruit of the desert cacti. So I hope you all have enjoyed learning a little bit about bats, our bats as pollinators. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can show you some of my bats. Okay, so I have a bat puppet here. And if you look at the bat puppet, when you put your hand in, you can actually see how its wings act as fingers. So this right here would be like a finger. And this one here would be a finger. So I actually have a real bat that shows the exact same thing. And this is my hoary bat, which is a bat that we find here in Kansas. It is about 5 inches long. So it's a little bigger than the lesser nosed bat and the lesser long-nosed bat and the Mexican long-tongued bat. So as you look, you'll see that that is his finger right there. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. There's his finger right there. There's another finger there, and there's a finger here. And the same thing over here on this side. So I have another bat here, and this one is known as an evening bat. And this is my evening bat. And he is about the same size as the other 2 bats that we saw, the Mexican long-tongued bat and the lesser long-nosed bat. And if you look over here, you can see just barely his skull and some of his bones. So if you'll imagine that lesser long-nosed bat. That's going to be how long his tongue is too, is that size of his body. All right, so if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll hopefully be able to answer them if you have any questions. Casey, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lori. It was a pleasure to have you here to talk about these amazing pollinators. Like Lori mentioned, these animals are crucial to our ecosystem. Well, that is all the time that we have for this live stream, but join us next week as we continue to talk about these amazing pollinators. Next week, we will feature another great partner with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. That'll be on Tuesday at 1 Central Time. And remember, plant some trees, save the bees, and see us next week. Thank you so much.